As a seasoned Western enthusiast and student of Clint Eastwood's cinematic masterpieces, I can attest that each of these lines encapsulates the essence of their respective characters beautifully. Um, from gunslinging one-liners to angry cop retorts, Clint Eastwood quotes keep his characters iconic decades later. And Clint Eastwood, Eastwood is a seasoned Hollywood legend with dozens of classic films under his belt, both as a leading man and a sharp-eyed director. Throughout his career, Eastwood has played such unforgettable roles as vigilante cop Harry Callahan in the series and vengeful bounty hunter, the man with no name in the trilogy. These anti-hero characters are full of quotable lines. Throughout his illustrious acting career, which earned him an Oscar nomination, Eastwood has brought to life lines penned by John Milius, Paul Haggis, and William Goldman. These scripts have provided him with numerous memorable one-liners and passionate speeches that he's delivered flawlessly on screen, creating iconic quotes cherished by fans. From the snarky remarks of Walt Kowalski into the gruff monologues of William Money about his past regrets as a gunfighter, and Eastwood's characters are brimming our classic quotes. It's not real easy to like something you know nothing about. The man with no name is a fistful of dollars. In A Fistful of Dollars, Clint Eastwood's character, known as the man with no name, arrives in the border town of San Miguel. Here, he discovers a power struggle between two smuggler families aiming to dominate the town. The man with no name strategizes to manipulate both warring factions and create discord among them. This plan proves successful, and during an important moment, he engages in conversation with Don Miguel and Ramon from one of the families. At this juncture, he expresses his views on achieving harmony. Ramon expressed that life holds great value and there's space for all within the town. He conveyed his readiness to retire his gun and cease hostilities. Don Miguel, in turn, shared that he too is weary of the violence and wishes to end the fighting. However, the man with no name seems unimpressed by their aspirations for peace, even ridiculing their ideals. When they question why he dislikes tranquility, he shares this sentiment. He doesn't believe in it, preferring to depart rather than linger and benefit from the calm. 29, God is not on our side.
Because he hates idiots.
The man with no name, the good, the bad, and the ugly. In the iconic spaghetti western film, Clint Eastwood's character, the man with no name, delivers numerous memorable lines that underscore his no-nonsense attitude and practicality. He often conveys a disregard for ideas that contradict the real world. His leadership is evident as he makes it clear to those he works alongside that he calls the shots and has no patience for foolishness. A major confrontation ensues as a result. Tuco suggests to the man with no name that since they're both wearing gray, Confederate colors, they might as well greet each other and part ways peacefully as long as they don't stir up trouble. He also proposes they could engage in a conversation about the Confederacy, which might help them leave. Furthermore, he implies that he can inform them that God dislikes the Yanks, which could potentially persuade the soldiers they are on their side. However, the man with no name responds by stating that God will never support either of their causes. Everybody's got a right to be a sucker once. Hogan 2 Mules for Sister Sarah. In 1970, the Western movie Two Mules for Sister Sarah was directed by Don Siegel, known for Dirty Harry. The film stars Clint Eastwood as Hogan, a soldier from the North, immediately following the Civil War. The story begins with Hogan intervening to save a woman about to be assaulted by a group of bandits. It turns out that the woman is none other than Sister Sarah, a nun who requests Hogan's protection since she is a supporter of the Worristas raising funds for Up Investigation. But it really says that she is the Mexican revolutionaries fighting against French occupation. And in the end, he decides to aid her, forming an unlikely duo as they face peril together. And he struggles to keep her alive, yet she persistently inquires if he has any beliefs. He champions of, he admits his sole interest lies in financial gain, and he doesn't care about anyone's causes, not even his own. When asked why he participated in the Civil War, given his feelings, this was his response. He admitted that he had been tricked into fighting for a cause once, but he wouldn't let himself be duped again. So when an adult male is chasing a female with intent to commit rape, I shoot the bastard. And that's my policy. Harry Callahan, Dirty Harry, in 1971, Dirty Harry Callahan emerged as a character symbolic of an overlooked period. The portrayal of a hard-nosed police officer prepared to take down lawbreakers by any means necessary resonated with audiences back then. However, such behavior is no longer effective or acceptable in contemporary society. Talking about yet during that time, Dirty Harry was admired by many, cinema enthusiasts. In the initial movie, he justifies his actions, and from his perspective, it seems logical. During this part of the film, it was senior officers inform him about a new non-lethal policy towards criminals. This quote serves as an explanation for why Harry consistently finds himself in conflict with his superiors and the media following his aggressive responses, yet he remains a police officer who takes extraordinary measures to safeguard his city when it comes to such heinous crimes like this one, involving a planned sexual assault against a woman. 3, a passenger company, and the problem is very similar and followed to this podcast. The Stranger High Plains Drifter. In the enigma surrounding the character of the stranger, several possibilities have been proposed. One idea suggests that he might be a symbolic embodiment of death, visiting the wicked town to eliminate corruption. On the other hand, another theory proposes that the stranger could be the reborn U.S. Marshal Jim Duncan, who was brutally murdered by outlaws. It's these very men that he intends to bring to justice. Another intriguing notion is that the stranger could be Duncan's brother, driven by a desire for vengeance. And in the movie, Clint Eastwood's character, the stranger, speaks a line that leaves interpretation open for both the audience and the character Mordecai, whom he appointed as sheriff and mayor of town. Following the climactic fight, the stranger is seen leaving town on horseback. He encounters Mordecai, who is completing the grave marker for Marshal Jim Duncan. When Mordecai admits he never learned the stranger's name, this is the line he delivers, and Mordecai's reaction provides the necessary understanding and the similar, just like I can tell it makes its own tune, which is a fist. Every gun makes its own tune. So that the man with no name, the good, the bad, and the ugly. In the Dollars trilogy, Eastwood's man with no name is known for his sparse use of words. However, when he speaks, it's often deeply meaningful. And a notable quote from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly: every gun has its own sound, reflects the poetic dialogue that Sergio Leone incorporated to complement the operatic atmosphere of his iconic spaghetti westerns. This line also underscores Clint Eastwood's character as an expert gunfighter, demonstrating that even identical guns can have unique characteristics. This scenario further underscores his intelligence, as it suggests he recognizes who pulls the trigger, since the man with no name personally constructed his firearm. And his hearing is acute enough to pinpoint the right target every time. In this film, famously known as Blondie, he demonstrates that he outsmarts most of his adversaries, which is why he consistently maintains a lead over them. As the third installment in the series, Eastwood had Leone's dialogue memorized by this point, and whenever he spoke, people paid attention. 24 Mokishal means my darling, my blood. And Frankie Dunn, $1 Million Baby. In a powerfully dialogue-rich film titled, quote, Clint Eastwood takes on the role of a gruff boxing trainer named Frankie Dunn. Initially unwilling to train women and skeptical about Maggie, portrayed by Hilary Swank, who he considers too old, he eventually agrees. Despite his harshness, he pushes Maggie rigorously in her training, and the movie unfolds as a heart-wrenching tragedy accentuated by the use of the Gaelic phrase, a phrase Frankie finally translates for Maggie, revealing his deep affection. Darling, my blood. After undergoing his training, it's clear that he feels deeply towards her as if she were his own daughter. This surprising affection is poignantly underscored when we learn of Maggie's tragic fate, her opponent delivering a fatal blow, leaving her paralyzed and eventually succumbing to death after. Frankie helped end her suffering. Despite the potentially soul-damaging act, this incident highlights Frankie's unwavering intention to shield and nurture this woman, who he holds dear. A good man always knows his limitations. Harry Callahan, Magnum Force. Among Clint Eastwood's most memorable roles, complete with unforgettable lines, is his portrayal of Detective Harry Callahan, a character he created in the film Dirty Harry. This series spawned multiple movies, and in Magnum Force, Harry delivers a dialogue that has become one of cinema's most famous quotes. This was the second installment in the franchise. And once again, Harry is back with more witty sayings reminiscent of the quips fans still recall from the initial film. In simpler terms, Harry is a determined police officer who goes all out to catch the criminal reform. Yet he acknowledges that there are boundaries he must respect, as he himself states twice in the film. Initially, his superior officer notes that Harry has never had to use his gun, and Harry replies, "Even a good man understands his limits." This could be perceived as a kind of criticism towards his boss. Later, Harry discovers his superior is corrupt, and when the lieutenant dies in a car bombing, Harry alters his statement to "Everyone should know their limitations." By the end, the lieutenant is no longer considered a good man. When a man's got money in his pocket, he begins to appreciate peace. The man with no name, a fistful of dollars. Sergio Leone reimagined Akira Kurosawa's samurai tale Yojimbo in the context of an American Western in his groundbreaking work, A Fistful of Dollars. Similar to Yojimbo, this film presents a gritty depiction of a lone stranger intervening during town conflict caused by gang warfare. This mysterious figure targets the gang's vulnerabilities, their finances, known as Joe. This unnamed character agrees to aid both feuding groups for a fee and subsequently incites them to fight each other. This quote sheds light on the author's perspective about Wild West outlaws, as he notes. In essence, this implies that once an outlaw has some cash, there's no need for him to stir up trouble, since he already has what he desires and doesn't want to draw unnecessary attention. Why seek trouble when one is living comfortably? Instead, it appears that the outlaw finds himself in trouble because of his need for money, which eventually leads him into associations with gangs in town. So, like, is being in a gang dips? And Walt Kowalski, Gran Torino, in one of Clint Eastwood's most divisive films, Gran Torino, he portrays Walt Kowalski, a recently widowed, strongly biased individual who spent his career as a factory worker and served in Vietnam. The movie sparks intense debate because Walt frequently employs ethnic slurs throughout the storyline, and despite becoming slightly more compassionate towards those he encounters, he continues to hurl harsh insults. In fact, when confronted by gang members on his Detroit property, his words become even more cutting. In this particular moment, Walter is at home by his car when a member of a street gang begins to taunt him. Remaining calm, Walter retaliates swiftly. When Tao, a neighbor's son, who has been targeted by the same gang, expresses concern about smoking harming his health, Walter replies sharply. Although this statement comes across as a sharp remark at first, it later becomes evident that Walter takes action to protect Tao from any harm, and even sacrifices his own life to encourage his neighbors to confront the gangs, testify against them for their crime, and ultimately bring justice for Thao's murder. And then it was someone that read has made intention that made one, and the two Seminole gunnery sergeant with I think it would be a bad podcast of way when I sent writer up and then provide friends, and then react back into the next season. As a dedicated movie enthusiast, I'd say that in Heartbreak Ridge, I found myself immersed in the world of the U.S. Marine, nearing retirement, portrayed by none other than Clint Eastwood. This Marine, with his unconventional methods, was given the task of whipping a group of unruly Marines into shape, ready for the invasion of Grenada. Although the banter between Highway and his commanders in the movie appears humorous, yet unrealistic, it was penned by Vietnam War veteran James Carabatzos. Based on his personal experiences, unfortunately, the Army declined to collaborate with the film due to their disapproval of its portrayal of Highway, which they deemed that is no longer relevant today, as reported in the and additionally, the movie sound effects earned it a Oscar nomination. Go Castadian. And it's Alive or Dead. It's your choice. The Man with No Name for a few dollars more. In the movie, for a few dollars more, the Man with No Name presents his targets with a choice to be captured either dead or alive. As he enters a bar in search of his mark, anyone who tips him off about the target finds themselves interrupted during their poker game, signaling imminent danger. After subduing the man, he extends an offer. In a classic Western scenario, the Man with No Name presents a stark choice. When three rescuers confront the bounty hunter, he mercilessly slays them. In response, his quarry reaches for a weapon, transformed. The Man with No Name swiftly disarms him, confirming that he had chosen. This scene underscores his just nature, but also his readiness to act decisively when confronted with defiance. To further illustrate his fearlessness, he then taunts the sheriff, demonstrating his lack of respect for any authority figure. Another 18, girly, tough ain't enough. And then Frankie Dunn, $1 Million Baby. Frankie succinctly expresses the essence of $1 Million Baby with 4 words. He doubts Maggie's fighting ability due to her being a woman, insisting that mere toughness won't suffice. And when Maggie counters by asserting her strength, Frankie replies, "Sweetheart, being tough isn't enough." And this derisive use of sweetheart underscores the sexist bias Frankie harbors against female boxers, establishing a new battle for Maggie to conquer, in addition to her boxing matches. This quote serves as a means for Clint Eastwood's character to demonstrate growth and readiness to transform into a more enlightened individual. In the film, Frankie initially has a strained relationship with his daughter due to his prejudiced views towards women. As the story unfolds, Frankie mentors Maddie and their bond deepens, leading him to view her as a daughter. This provides an opportunity for him to make amends that he couldn't with his own child. Regrettably, the movie concludes on a sad note as Maggie passes away. Before leaving the sport altogether, Scrap, played by Morgan Freeman, composes a letter to Frankie's estranged daughter, detailing her father's recent actions. We all have it coming, kid. William Will Money, Unforgiven. One significant topic that the film Unforgiven explores is the inescapable reality and persistence of death, a theme intertwined with the moral dilemma surrounding violence and its justification. And as William Money underscores, regardless of circumstances, death is an unavoidable fate for all contact. This idea resonates deeply within the film's broader theme, which reflects the twilight of classic Western narratives, traditional Western films, and even the waning era of the Wild West, a period mirrored by the setting of this movie. As I sat in the cinema listening to Williams' words echo through the room, it struck me that they seemed deeply rooted in personal understanding for more than 2 decades. Clint Eastwood has been, synonymous with the spaghetti Western, and his roles have become timeless classics. It is a good os main body, and that a good suiting in this, and I think it's making this kind of layer of these people that are calls the oncoming of the way. It lends a profound weight to his wisdom and life experiences, experiences that resonate not just with his character as an outlaw, but with Eastwood himself, the embodiment of the Western genre. If you want to guarantee, buy a toaster. Nick Polobsky, the Rookie, as a fan, I can't help but draw parallels between Clint Eastwood's portrayal in The Rookie and his iconic character, Dirty Harry. Although he wasn't playing Harry Callahan this time, Sergeant Nick Polofsky certainly echoed Harry's wit with lines like, if you want to guarantee, buy a toaster. Released in 1990, the movie aimed to ride the wave of Charlie Sheen's rising stardom, casting him as the fresh-faced rookie cop and pairing him with Eastwood's weathered veteran. In this scene, Mick responds to Eugene Ackerman, who expresses concern for his son, David, by acknowledging that there are no absolute assurances in their police work. He suggests that if Mr. Ackerman seeks guarantees, he should instead focus on purchasing household items rather than worrying about his son's career in law enforcement. That would, in 15, sometimes the dead can be more useful than the living. And seeing that you would talk about, listen to this. The Man with No Name, A Fistful of Dollars. Sergio Leone showcased his talent for crafting profound dialogue amidst his violent westerns, such as in The Man with No Name is not only swift with his gun, but also reflects deeply on his brutal profession. In the movie, the man with no name buries the fallen soldiers in a grave, hoping to escalate the conflict between the two feuding families. In this Western adaptation of the Japanese classic film, while laying the corpses in the grave, he mused that these deceased individuals could prove more beneficial than the living in this instance, as he proceeded to expound on his thoughts, stating that dead bodies had extricated him from more challenging predicaments than most would imagine. He disclosed they were silent, and given enough time, he could even manipulate the dead body to appear alive again. This is another instance where the man with no name demonstrates his intelligence complements his exceptional shooting skills. I'm coming down there in 5 minutes, and you better have those files open, you pencil pushing son of a bee. And Harry Callahan, the enforcer, in Harry Callahan's third appearance in the Dirty Harry franchise, the enforcer, his character was even more multidimensional. Rather than growing from his errors and adopting a team-oriented approach, Harry became increasingly rebellious. This trait was particularly noticeable when Lieutenant Hal Bressler struggled to obtain necessary files for a case. As Callahan listens to Bressler encounter obstacles within their own files department, he snatches the phone right out of his hand and delivers a chilling warning with that quote. In the gritty film Enforcer, Harry finds himself assigned to desk duty following a tragic incident where his partner is slain by domestic terrorists. The People's Revolutionary Strike Force, this leaves him unable to prevent the attack. As he later returns to active duty, he's paired with an inexperienced woman from the administrative side, played by Tyne Daly, a partnership he's far from enthusiastic about. Throughout the movie, Harry spends as much time battling his own department as he does the terrorist group, making his growing exasperation palpable. The second is that the major part T, when major perspective makes this critical sound, that is Josey Wales, the outlaw. Josey Wales. In the film, Clint Eastwood portrays a character with a genuine bounty on his head. And instead of surrendering peacefully when bounty hunters pursue him, he's determined to fight back rockets. When a young bounty hunter attempts to capture the title character, Josey Wales, he says, aware that the bounty hunter has little chance against him, Josey Wales humorously comments, in this film, Josey Wales is a former Confederate fighter who becomes a fugitive following the brutal killing of his family by Union soldiers. Throughout the movie, Josey's primary goal is to seek retribution for the loss of his loved ones. Even as bounty hunters persistently chase him, the pursuit for vengeance is not just a statement he makes to the bounty hunter, but also a deeply personal mission for him, as he feels he has nothing left to live for and will fight until he meets his own demise. 12 inches, it's a hell of a thing. Killing a man. Will, Money, Unforgiven, deviates from typical black and white Western narratives, focusing instead on the moral dilemmas surrounding violence. The characters such as William Munning, a seasoned killer, and the Schofield Kid, an inexperienced gunman, serve to explore these themes. This film signifies the end of the Wild West era, providing Clint Eastwood with an opportunity to bring a fitting conclusion to his long-standing career within this genre, effectively bidding adieu to the Western movie genre. Throughout most of his professional journey, Clint Eastwood's most memorable lines tend to be calm, ominous warnings, preceding someone's death or instilling a deep sense of dread. However, at this stage in his career and William Money's life, he is weary of the violence and is eager to retire his guns. He recognizes similarities between himself and the young gunman, yet feels compelled to caution the youth that a path of killing will ultimately lead him either to an early grave or, like William, waiting for the end to approach spirits. Everybody wants results, but nobody wants to do what they have to do to get them done. Harry Callahan, Dirty Harry. Harry's core beliefs are encapsulated in this quote from the initial Dirty Harry film. In the throes of the Scorpio killer's reign of terror in San Francisco, Harry is more than content to transcend legal boundaries to ensure justice is served amidst an array of bureaucratic obstacles. Harry underscores that every officer yearns for results, but he alone is prepared to engage in the tough, unconventional actions necessary to achieve those outcomes. Harry is the only one who takes action based on his gut feelings and makes quick, decisive moves, which frequently led to apprehending wrongdoers, albeit with a bit of collateral damage along the way. He is as close as a movie can get to a vigilante, but he does it all with a badge, making him a danger to his superiors and those feelings around him. But they did. However, it also means that he will do whatever it takes to stop the Scorpio killer. And this means doing things that no one else wants to talk about or even acknowledge. And since criminals won't play by the rules, he feels the best way to stop them is to break a few rules along the way as well. And